So do the events of the past year maybe have you feeling stuck? It might be time to reevaluate what you once thought you wanted or made you happy and fulfilled. Owner of Jen Mintz Coaching, Jen Mintz, is here to share the 3 A's to embrace change. Take a look. Jen, my friend, I am so happy you're back. I feel like now more than ever, we need to talk to you because so many of my girlfriends, I'm hearing a common thread in that even though we've been in this new normal for almost a year now, many of us are still in, I guess the best expression is maybe a holding pattern because I'm waiting for things to get better, be like the way they used to. What do you say to that? Because it's really an unsettling feeling because even though things are getting better, what does that mean for us? And can we plan for the future? It's frustrating.
Yeah, you're so right, Christine. And it is something that is in the air right now. There's this feeling of uncertainty. And, the saying, when man plans, God laughs, keeps coming to me because things keep changing and evolving. And, one of the big keys is really to focus on the present and to really take assessment of where we are now and to just take some time to breathe and recognize that things change and take a moment, right? Just take a moment to assess and know that we ultimately have very little control. Control is the ultimate illusion here. So you're right. How do we move forward? Still plan for the future, but also recognize that things are continuing to shift and change. So it's a challenge. It's a big challenge.
It really is. As I always say, even prior to this, we have to try to control the controllables and accept things as they are, but know that things are still fluid right now. So you're going to give us some tips on how we can sort of navigate our current path as we look ahead to the future. So our first tip that we have is awareness. What do you mean?
Yeah, so awareness, like you said, of where we are. And I think one of the most important things for people to do right now is to take a second and pause and do a values assessment, right? So our values change over time based on where we are and what's going on around us. And so much has been recalibrated. So really take a second and tap into your values right now. What is most important to you? Is it family? Is it freedom? Is it consistency? Is it security? Is it time with loved ones? Tap into that. I'm finding a lot of people are actually feeling that they are tolerating unhappiness now for something they thought they wanted in the future, right? So for example, people have been working in these jobs that are dragging them down, that they're miserable in, but they've been doing it because in 5 years, they'll be able to buy a house in the city. Well, guess what? Now, nobody wants to live in the city anymore, right? So they're realizing they're unhappy for something that they don't want anymore. So a big key here is to tap into the deeper goal, right? Like, what's the deeper meaning behind this? So the meaning, for example, for wanting a big house may have been so you can entertain friends and family, so you can have a place for people to gather. So the deeper goal there is really connection and time with loved ones. So tap into that value versus the external. And so having awareness that things have changed.
Yes, I love that one. All right, next one is something that's very hard to do, even in good times, and that is acceptance. What should we be focusing on when it comes to acceptance?
Yeah, this is a big one. And the truth is, as we evolve, so do our dreams. And so many of us have been taught that we pick one path and stick on it for the rest of our lives, right? Whether it's job, whether it's a relationship, whether it is geographical location. And the truth is that what we're going to want later is impacted by what's happening now, both internally and externally. So one thing I recommend to my clients is, go back and think about where you were 5 or 10 years ago and how much how you have wanted has changed and shifted, and that is okay. It's really important that we accept that life can be lived in chapters and that we are meant to evolve, and that, who we become is a function of what we're going through at the present moment.
Okay, Jen, so once we have that awareness and we have the acceptance, then your last step is taking action. Again, a difficult one to do sometimes, especially when you feel paralyzed by the unknown.
Yeah, and one of the things that's important to know here is action can be internal. It doesn't have to always be external, right? There's a quote that I love from Viktor Frankl where I'll summarize it, but he says, no matter what happens outside of us, we always have the freedom to choose our mindset, to choose our attitude. So that's so important to remember when things outside of us feel so out of control. So step number one, focus on what is working now. Okay, focus on what is bringing you joy. It's been really hard this past year, but there are so many silver linings, as we've talked about, and focus on what that is and celebrate it. Okay, don't forget to find meaning in the little things. And then take a second and start with the present and what shifts you can make today. What can you do focused on the right now to bring more of that joy into your life? So going back to the example of wanting the house in the city, right? And wanting that connection, how can you create connection today without waiting for the future?
The main thing I'm getting from this is present. Be in the moment and work in the moment. And again, it's easier said than done, but that's why we have the experts like you to kind of teach us and guide us how to do it, because it's just so beneficial. So thank you, Jen. I always love chatting with you and getting my dose of my Zen.
So good to see you, Christine. Thanks for having me.